Hello and welcome to ThoughtCast, the SPJIMR podcast, a conversation about business and leadership between a corporate head and an academic. Today's ThoughtCast is a conversation between two gurus, two leaders who inspire a whole generation of managers. We have Mr. Suresh Narayanan, Chairman and Managing Director of Nestle India, the quintessential business leader, who is also a mentor and guide to many in the organizations he had worked. He was the first Indian managing director in 17 years to head Nestle India at a difficult time for the company. He successfully steered the organization through one of its biggest crises. Talking to him today is a stalwart of business and leadership, Mr. R Gopalakrishnan, who, after having been on the board of Tata Sons and with Hindustan Unilever for over 3 decades, is an acclaimed author and a corporate leader. He's also an executive at residence at SPJIMR. RG, handing over to you to have this conversation with Mr. Narayanan.
Thank you very much, Vinita. It's a great pleasure, which I would like to express on my own behalf, to do this first thoughtcast with none other than the Chairman and Managing Director of Nestle, Suresh Narayanan, whom, of course, I have known for many, many years. Suresh, welcome to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
I want to recount, Suresh, that both you and I have backgrounds in very middle-class companies. Hindustan Unilever, Nestle, Tata, these are comprised of very middle-class people. And one of the great virtues of middle-class people is that they learn more from adversity than from prosperity. And so the way I would like to approach this is to share teachings and learnings from difficult circumstances in which you have learned something. One of the things I want to explore with you, the first question, that the best protection for a company from predators is to create highly engaged employees. And during the recent Maggi crisis, you have faced this problem. To protect the company, what is the role of engaged employees? Would you like to share a particular incident or more than one incident and what you learned from it, Suresh?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I must say, it's a privilege for me to be on this podcast. This is the first time that, for me, a guru is interviewing a shishya. So therefore, I'm delighted, and we know each other for decades. You're absolutely right, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, that I think many times in organizations, especially in difficult times, we tend to not leverage our employees the way we should, because we presume, and this is the arrogance of the ego, that the management committee or the leaders or whoever are the panchayat, as it were, in an organization, these are people who know everything about everything and should be able to come out of a difficult situation. So really, for me, I think the Maggi crisis was a big one, really big one. It was an existential crisis for Nestle in India, and it had global ramifications. And within the first few weeks, we were having a discussion in the management committee, and one of my colleagues, he said, Suresh, we seem to be starting to talk to the media, and we are talking to the regulators, and we are talking to various people. But have we really thought about how we can leverage our own people? And 80% of Nestle India are basically millennials, and they're all the Facebook generation. I keep teasing them that likes on Facebook is more important than dislike face to face for your generation. And I said, then he said, why don't we leverage our own people to talk about what Nestle is, their own working experience in Nestle, what the company is, what the ethos is, what the values are, and what the purpose of this organization is. And it sort of rang a bell. He said, yeah, I mean, I sort of kicked myself under the chair saying that, look, I mean, this is so obvious, and yet we'd never thought about it till that moment. So really, we had a communication session with my people. I called a town hall, and it was a kind of webcast to all the other sites as well. And we talked about various things, about the problems the company was going through, about who we were as a company, what our purpose was, what our values were. And towards the end, I said, look, my only request to you is to share your experience, good or bad, because I mean, that's, you are the ones who judge it, and I'm no one define it. But if you could share it with your friends on Facebook or on Twitter or wherever, maybe you will start to move the dial in this very turbulent times for the company. And in fact, it happened. We did this, and there was a lot of response coming in because, as you might know, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, the trouble was more with how the regulator interpreted us than how the consumer interpreted us.
Right.
And in fact, that then led to the campaign that we had of millions of consumers who wrote into us saying that we miss Maggi. And for the first time I think in marketing history, I put out a campaign called "We Miss You Too," with no product on the shelf, because by that time the product had been taken off the shelf. But I think leveraging people and leveraging the experience that people have had in a company is such a huge strength for large and for companies with a heritage.
That's terrific. You had an existential crisis, as you said, and an idea came up which was self-evident, but for a moment overlooked, and then you used it. The question I would like you to address next is is this a way to vaccinate a company which is not in a crisis? Every company has visible predators and invisible predators. The visible ones are competition, market share, margins, quarterly results. But the invisible ones are these kinds of things that come from nowhere, as it were. I believe companies can also be vaccinated if you constantly work on improving the engagement of employees. Can you tell me whether Nestle actually tracks the engagement of employees? And if so, what you found out of it, formally or informally, as the case may be?
In fact, employee engagement, measurement of employee satisfaction, and of the various issues that they have, and the various positives and negatives in the way they see the organization, is tracked by us every 3 years. It is called a Nestle and I survey. So this is a survey conducted amongst all the employees of the company. So almost 7,600 employees in India, and also we include Sri Lanka and Bangladesh because we have operations there. So almost about 10,000 people respond to this, and I'm delighted that just about a week back we concluded the 2020 survey, which was conducted after the 2017-18 survey. And what I'm extremely proud of, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, is that, the response rate was about 95% to
Wow,
this.
wow.
So almost 9,500 employees responded to it. And the two biggest pluses that came for the company: 98% of people said we are proud to work for Nestle. I think that's a huge, huge cachet, and I'm deeply grateful for this kind of a number. And 98% of people responded saying that we believe in the purpose and values of this company. And I think these are extremely positive statements to make. And indeed, as you rightly said, I think leveraging employees at all times is absolutely spot on in terms of vaccinating the company, and indeed vaccinating its reputation. In fact, I think, as the poet Kabir once said beautifully, he said, "Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi, jo sukh mein sumiran kare, dukh kahe ko hoy." And that's exactly
Ah,
what happens with people. That
wonderful.
if you treat them well, and if you engage them well in good times, then they are with you in bad times as well. And I think I've also said this before, Mr. Gopalakrishnan. I think, and since both of us share a common background in a great company, if companies were to really invest more in culture than in CAPEX, I think we will have a lot more better run companies in this country as well.
Oh, wow. That's a great statement. I think I have experienced it during my own long career, and so have you. And I think this is a terrific insight. Suresh, tell me one thing. You also did not you do an MBA like I didn't do an MBA, correct? If I remember right, you did your master's in economics and then accidentally jumped into management,
Absolutely.
right? Now, the question I want to ask you is people who come out of MBA colleges, and I'm not referring to any particular institute, are trained to be highly competitive individually. Uh, you know, they get points for speaking in class, for class participation, this, that, etc., etc. When they join the company, you reward them in the early years in good companies for being individually competitive, but yet we want them to collaborate, because if there's no collaboration in a company, then it goes to pot. Can you share any experience you had whereby it was brought home that collaboration is actually a discipline that can be learnt, and it is not just one of those nice goody furry sort of toys that you can embrace periodically?
I think it's a very good question, Mr. Gopalakrishnan. And aside, I might, this is an incident that you might have forgotten, but yes, I vividly remember when I joined as a management trainee at what was then Hindustan Lever, and it was under your wings. You were the controller for you had a pretty long designation, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, controller of foods, buying, AFS, and rural development. It's probably the longest designation for a senior person I've seen in my life. And I remember the first meeting that we had. You were in your room. You asked me the question. You said, "Are you a civilian or are you a military man?"
Right.
So I didn't quite get it. I said, "Sir, I don't know what you mean." He said, "Are you an MBA or a non-MBA?" So I said, "Sir, if non-MBA is a civilian, then yes, I am a civilian." And so yes, I think one of the great advantages in being a non-MBA, in a bastion of MBAs, because you know that the company was full of high quality, top class MBAs, IIT, IIMs from all the best known institutions, is that you always felt a bit of an underdog. You always felt that, look, I have to catch up and run faster in order to stay in the game, because after studying economics, where you know about hypotheses and theories, you don't know about case studies. And the first time I faced a case study was when I joined Hindustan Lever. I'd never done a case study in my life. And I think one of the things that I really learned early on disciplining on discipline in the workforce and how it can help. I remember, and this was in 19, I think 87, 86, 87, and I was posted in Ahmedabad as the AFS area manager, and we were having the Gujarat riots at that time. It was the anti-reservation riots that were taking place. And I remember as a young manager, AFS area manager, and you know this business very, very well. I had about 30 odd workers in a pretty dirty, dusty factory. And one of the things was the challenge was, how do you get these fellows to produce and to work and to do things despite a very, very difficult kind of environment that was there. So I remember I told my plant in charge and my accountant, I said, let's have a meeting with these workers. And they were quite difficult fellows in those days. And I recall having talked to them, a 20-something chit of a fellow, gave them a spiel on coming together. I said, look, we have to come together in this crisis. We have to be together as Hindustan Lever. We have to be together as a company, in this storm. And I think ultimately, if we come out of this alive and secure as a company and as a unit, I think we will get kudos not only as individuals but also as a unit. And we may be a small unit, but still we are an important unit of this company. And then I sort of finished my talk, and one of the union leaders came up forward and he said, look, I know that initially what you said sounded like philosophy, but I think your earnestness has got us to your side. And yes, we will work together. We will maximize the production. We will ensure that things happen, and we will ensure that this factory will run for every single day of this crisis. And that's exactly what happened. So and they came together in a very, very disciplined manner. I mean, people who were otherwise quite difficult, somehow it dawned on them, or it put a spark in them, saying that, look, if we do well together this time, maybe we will do well together for the future as well. And I think that was something that was quite heartening. It happened to me many years later, when I was in Egypt as the chairman of North Africa for Nestle, about 10 years ago. And during the Arab Spring, this is exactly what happened. At a time when I thought that my factory would not open, my workers came together in a very disciplined manner. And these are Egyptians, not the best known for discipline, but they came together because they said, look, we love this company. And number two, you never left us. And my management committee and I were 100% present in Egypt during this entire Arab Spring. You never left us, even when there was turmoil. So we will come together, we will work together, we will do the things that will prove to ourselves what an invincible force we are. And sometimes the magic of people just gets unleashed when you give them purpose.
Fantastic. So, what we have discussed so far, Suresh, is the reality that people power is a very important part of a company's assets. I want to ask, why do you think in companies there is so much of rigor and attention given to techniques like project management, like capital expenditure control, like budgeting, like excellence models? But somehow, people management and releasing the energy and power of people is left for a crisis to come for people to discover. Do you have a view on that?
I think, sir, the way I see it is I think it's the way in which we measure the performance of our people. If you recall, when you're a young sales manager or whatever brand manager, your output is always measured in individual terms. How good is he? How bright is he? How analytical is he? How challenging is he? How courageous is he?
Right.
These are the ways in which we measure people. And then let's say in a classic FMCG career, you become ASM, then you become BSM, branch manager, GSM, sales director, etc., etc. And then you find that as you gravitate towards higher positions, you become from a concert pianist, you become an orchestra conductor, and your ability lies in being able to nuance the music together to make the right sound, rather than your capability of making the right sound yourself on an instrument. And I think somewhere along the line this transition happens, and as management leaders and as leaders in organizations, we forget to change the instruments to measure that particular quality. And I think sometimes, and you and I have seen this in our own careers, that great individualists, fantastic, absolutely brilliant managers land up being disastrous when they are put into a large team situation or indeed into a crisis situation, because they have never been measured for it, and they have always been given kudos for all the great stuff they have done as individuals, but never any credence for that they what they might or might not have done with teams. And that's why I think the biggest crisis in corporates today, I think, and it applies to other walks of life as well, is not the crisis of competence. It is a crisis of leadership, because ultimately how you orchestrate is what will determine whether you are on the right banks that you are navigating, or you are indeed in a deep one.
That's a very, very valid and well made comment. A great individualist doesn't necessarily make a great leader, but a competent individualist can make a great leader. So just like if you're the best batsman in the team or the best pace bowler, it doesn't automatically qualify you to be the captain. A captain is made of a different metal, and you're saying when you inject a people sensitivity, a people empathy, and a people capacity in a competent manager, he has a chance of becoming a great leader. Is that a fair summary of what you said?
Absolutely, sir. I think what we do is we measure more the competence aspects of individuals, and then we project it onto potential leadership, and sometimes that equation goes horribly wrong.
That's a great lesson for those students, especially who will listen to this, hopefully, that functional competence has to be overlaid with people capability if you really want a true leader,
Absolutely,
right?
sir. Absolutely.
Can I just move to another subject because I don't want to focus only on people and employees? I suppose you could take vendors and distributors and everything, but I just want to take consumers because you're a very prominent and successful consumer goods company. Um, people who are not in fast moving consumer goods, who are in engineering or nuclear research, have often poked fun saying, what is so great about selling noodles or coffee or soap or shampoo? And very often there is an inadequate understanding of the very central role of consumer understanding and formal ways and informal ways, both, to be sensitive to consumers. I would like you to share any incidents or experiences from your own career which can highlight this. That its complexity, not just the fact that it needs to be done.
I think you're absolutely right that for a consumer facing company, consumer understanding is the sine qua non of its existence. I mean, if a company professes to be a great marketeer and does not have knowledge of the consumer, then I think driving an aircraft with blind is not exactly a good way of reaching your destination. So I think it's fair to say that consumer insight is central. But also, as you would remember, sir, from our own careers, we tend to read too much in market research reports, and we don't really work the markets, go understand, talk to retailers, talk to consumers, to make up our minds. So we look at a buy score or a try score, and we say, yeah, this is fine. And some market research fellow says this is the right way of doing it, and we all nod our heads, put it up in a presentation, and expect the bosses also to nod their heads. I'll give you an example that happened to Nestle not so long ago. We launched a product called Nescafe Sunrise Insta Filter, which was supposed to be a filter coffee, a kind of equivalent in the South. Great product, fantastic. Consumer research showed consumers loved it. They felt it was better than any other coffee on the market, including what we had to offer, and better than competition, etc., etc. And it was a go go go. Everybody was gung ho about it, and projections were being made that this will be the next thing after sliced bread. Within 6 months, the product didn't measure up, and we had to withdraw it. When you did a consumer research back, and we said, look, why is it that this product hasn't worked out? And I was also quite perplexed, saying, this is such a great product. Why hasn't it worked out? Consumers turned around and they said, yeah, Insta filter, but filter coffee is decoction coffee. No, you don't have powder in that, do you? And that's when we realized that what we were up against was a absolute bummer. We had got the product right, but the form was wrong. And you would say that is a blooper in consumer research. But yes, sometimes you're so blinded with your metrics of what you think the consumer is looking for that you can get blindsided by it.
This is a fascinating story because as you were telling me about the product, Sunrise or Nescafe coffee, I said, how can filter coffee be instant if there's no residue?
Yeah.
And it's as far away from brewed tea, from boiled tea, as tea leaves are. You
Yeah.
can't have boiled tea without tea leaves staying behind. But I would like to take this opportunity, though the interviews with you, of narrating a similar experience I had when I went to Unilever Arabia as chairman back in 1991. They had spent already 10 million pounds or dollars researching a particular type of detergent which would deliver the same goodies with a much lower volume. And this was a great success in Japan because space was a constraint, logistics was a constraint, truck space was a constraint. And they were all set and ready to go. And my task was to go there as chairman and then launch it. But my common sense told me, and my observations from the market told me exactly like you had with this product that you mentioned, that this won't work here. And sure enough, it never worked. And that was a great lesson to me that you may get the tick in the box for all the market research. But at the end of the day, all that is artificial intelligence. You have to use your natural intelligence as well, which is the
Absolutely.
story. Both of us have the same story.
Absolutely.
Suresh, I want to explore one last question with you. In the next 2, 3, 4 years, I don't know, whenever, you will also come close to succession planning and retirement and so on, like I had several years ago. And it has been my experience that the best job that a corporate leader can do, a CEO can do, is to develop people, help in finding the successor, put the successor on the table, and walk away and not keep looking back. There was a film called About Schmidt. I don't know if you've seen it. And in About Schmidt, he keeps on going back to
Yes,
the.
I saw that film. Yes.
You've seen the film?
Yeah, I've seen that.
He
Yes.
keeps asking, do you need any help from me, Joe? And Joe says, no, I don't need any help. Everything is clear. What is your view on succession planning and what the role of a CEO and professional manager is in this?
I think you hit the nail on the head, Mr. Gopalakrishnan. For me, the single most, probably the two most important decisions that a CEO ever takes is number one is the allocation of capital, and number two is depth of leadership and succession planning. These are about the two most important decisions. Everything else, honestly, I mean, his ego makes him say that I know a lot about strategy and not about execution, a lot about operations. But there are equally competent, if not more competent, people to do that part. And therefore, I think it zeroes down to succession planning and depth of leadership. Because a legacy that, for example, if you look at your own career, the legacy you left behind is a legacy of very strong leaders, of people who have gone on to do things in life to be successful. And I am just one example of many people who owe their early years to proper nurturing and proper grooming as managers. And I think sometimes we neglect it because we are so self-centered in our way of looking at leadership. I want to extract the last juice that I can of being chairman and managing director of this great company and leave it penurious in terms of leadership depth. But I think it is a very very important task. I completely agree with you. In fact, my mind is already exercised on that task, developing the depth of leadership within the organization to take on the new challenges in a post-COVID world. Number two is really to the generational shift is happening in the organization today. We are having Generation Z also coming in after the millennials. Their way of looking at organizations, work structures, reward recognitions, and the way in which the place looks and smells is very different. So I think preparing leadership to be able to take on that challenge. And finally, yes, I too would love to be in a situation where I have my successor. I groom him or her for whatever period of time that the organization feels is essential, and then to walk away. Because I think the worst thing you can do to a new CEO is to keep prodding him, saying that please ask me for help, or indeed if you use your old Khufia network in the organization of finding out what are the pitfalls that this person is going through. I think both of this singularly destroy organizations. So building a succession planning, thinking about it, doing something about it, and ensuring that you are the nursemaid or literally the dai to ensure the carry forward of the purpose and values of the company is probably the single most important job of a CEO.
That's terrific. That's great because both of us seem to agree that a CEO is really running one or two laps of the relay race. But his task is to take the baton from his predecessor and hand it over in an enhanced state to his successor, and then watch the match and not comment on it. And this is what we are saying. So, this idea of SPJIMR is a terrific one of trying to reach not just their own students, but hundreds, I suppose thousands of students about career and life. I would like to, before I close, ask whether you have any parting thoughts for young people who are embarking on management careers. Any one or two ideas that come to your mind which you'd like to sign off with?
I think this is I completely agree with you that this is a commendable initiative taken by SPJIMR, because I think this, more often than not, Mr. Gopalkrishnan, the young generation that is there in the workplace today or will be getting into the workplace don't lack in technological savviness or competence or capabilities. What they lack is in the nuance of the soft skills to build their leadership and to build their confidence over a period of time. So the only two or three things I would leave youngsters with as a message today. Number one, have confidence in yourself, even if you don't have the necessary qualifications, because you need to have a lot of confidence in yourself in what you're capable of doing. Number two is always remember that the team comes before you. The leader of a pack of lions can never be a monkey. So if you really are uh, focused on your team, I think success will come to you. And number three, don't agonize about your career. I think all of us have been through long careers. We've had our ups and downs. We've been promoted in time, not promoted in time. We've had increments, not had increments. We've had bonuses, not had bonuses. But in the long haul, we've all had satisfying and happy careers if we kept a positive frame of reference and a moral compass that was strong. And that's all I would commend the youngsters to do for the future.
Great. That is fantastic. My mind goes back by the time this podcast is published. It would be the 40th anniversary of my sitting on your interview board. I think it was
Yes,
1980 or 81, was it?
81, 81. You were on the interview board. Absolutely.
And though I can't remember that particular interview as well as you probably do, I can take some comfort that perhaps it was not a wrong selection at all. And that interview produced a future managing director and chairman of a very successful company. Congratulations to you, Suresh, and thank you so much for sparing your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Gopalakrishnan. Thank you for your good wishes and your blessings always. They are most cherished. And thank you for being an inspiring guru for 4 decades for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Vinita, thank you to SPJIMR, you and Parth for recording this.
Thank you, sir. To both of you, we are absolutely speechless, mesmerized, listening to the both of you gurus. You were listening to SPJIMR's ThoughtCast, produced by Vinita Dwivedi, edited by Parth Thakkar, supported by Aditya Shroff, Fani Krishna, and Kaushik Lakshman.